Hi everyone, today we're talking about Carnival Corporation, which is a cruise company, and we talked about Carnival because it reported earnings a few days ago, and when it reported earnings a few days ago, guidance was cut, and the actual earnings reports were pretty decent to be fair, but the earnings were cut, the guidance was cut, and whenever we hear, guidance being cut, we always see his stock kind of go, whoa, what's going on here? And we have a lot of panic sellers that sell off the stock, and that's when we kind of have a stock that's been sold off too much, and it kind of creates that opportunity to get into a stock at a cheaper price or a bargain. And we're going to talk about Carnival and is it a bargain after that sell-off and a good stock to get into right now at these prices. Carnival itself is a $50 a share stock. The PE is at 11, so 11 for Carnival is actually pretty good. It's probably, or it is the lowest I believe it's been in like the last 5 years. It's quite a low average P that it's been at, so that's an attractive P right there for Carnival. The dividend play, because of the stock going down now, we get a 4% dividend yield on Carnival, so that's a pretty good dividend play. It's not really known as a dividend stock, but when you start to get into a 4% range, that kind of like goes, that's a little bit of a dividend play right there. So a 4% dividend yield on this stock is pretty good, especially when we talk about the sales in a few minutes. So the EPS side of it, the EPS grows at 10% a year, or 10.25% a year. That's forecast from this year to next year. So from this year to next year, we're expected the EPS to grow by 10%. And obviously on this channel, whenever we talk about stocks, we kind of look at stocks from a kind of a hold point of view, a long-term hold, from about a year to 5 years. So that's kind of the range that we look to hold these stocks for. Obviously, there's going to be times where you might hold it longer than that. There might be times where the stock jumps up massive and you're like, I might just take a little bit of profit there. But that's generally the kind of feel that we go for on this channel, a year to a 5 year hold. And the EPS is set to grow for 10% for the next year. And obviously, for the next 5 years, it's probably going to be something around there, give or take a few percent. But, it's not going to fall off a cliff and go down to like 3%. So that's a pretty good EPS growth. I like double-digit growth, as you know if you watch this channel quite a bit. Whenever I talk about the EPS and sales side of it, I like it to be in the 10%, and the EPS is in that. So sales itself is just below double-digit. That's down at 7.6%, but that's still quite a healthy growth. Sales growing at 7.6 is quite healthy overall. So we're going to get on some positives and negatives of the company, and then I'll talk about my opinion on the stock. So positives, I would say that a cruise company definitely relies on the economy. If the economy is good, you're going to have more people wanting to spend the money and go on holiday, more people employed, more people having more money. And because of the economy being good right now, that will help the stock. Now you could argue that the economy is going downhill now, there's a slowdown, there's a crash around the corner, but that's all predicted in the future and it's not for definite. We have gone down from a little bit of a slowdown right now, but nothing too major. And it's definitely an economy that's better than back in 2008 where the Great Recession was happening. So there's definitely more people employed, people getting more pay increase. So you've got to say the economy is quite good now, and that's going to obviously help the stock. The dividend yield is obviously a good point. So the dividend growth, the dividend's growing at 4%. So obviously, one thing that really impressed me is like in the cruise space, I really like Royal Caribbean Cruises. They're a very good stock that I like in this space, especially because it's a higher end company. But Carnival is a bit down to the lower end of the company, or kind of the company that is in there. It's the lower end, and even though it's the lower end, one thing that's always impressive in this stock is the dividend growth on it. The dividend growth on it is really, really intriguing and really interesting. That if you wanted to get into a stock, it's really attractive how they grow that dividend. So that's a really good thing. The low PE, we touched on that, how low PE that is right now. Really good PE and good growth, like I said earlier. EPS side of it, sales side of it, you're nearly near. You are in a double-digit growth on EPS and it's near double-digit on sales. So that's pretty good. The negative side of the company, like I said just then, low end of the cruise line. The dividend's really good, but I normally, if I'm getting into like leisure companies like Carnival Corporation, I normally like to go for the high end kind of company just because there's a lot more people that are willing to go there, and then when they're there they just splash out on the money and get a lot of the extras there, higher experience, And yeah, I do, when I go to leisure companies, that's, you know, a few years ago, if you watch this channel back in like 2017, I invested in Wynn Resorts. I invested in resorts because it's a higher end side of the company. So I do like to get in higher end companies, and Carnival isn't that. You know, it's a bit more of a cheaper experience. There's smaller cabins on the cruise ships. You know, if you were unfortunate to be in like a bit of some sort of accident at sea and or caught in a storm, you know, you don't get treated really well. You kind of get, oh, you have $100 off your next cruise kind of thing. You know, that's it. And it's a good thing from the company's point of view because then they don't have to do big massive payouts. But it's kind of like, oh, you know, you don't really treat your customers that well. So that's definitely a negative for me. Heavy balance sheet. The payout on the dividends quite high than what I normally get into. I think it's somewhere around 50%. Obviously, when you're buying these ships that are, you know, billions of dollars, then it is going to take a toll on your balance sheet. But at the same time, you know, they've got a lot of assets there as well. So it's a hard one to talk about the balance sheet really, because of what business it's in. But it could certainly be a bit better, in my opinion. Negatives. The rise in fuel costs. Obviously, we talked about this earlier on about in the earnings report that the fuel costs are taking a bit of toll on the margin, and obviously going forward we could see that going up. But rising fuel costs are always something that's going to happen. You know, in the cruise industry, fuel is always going to go up. It's gone up for the last 50 years, and it's not going to stop going up now. But you know, at the end of the day, because of fuel going up, you know, wages go up. Cruise companies start charging more to cover the cost of fuel, and it's just a cycle that goes around. And yeah, you know, you could talk about, oh, they've jumped up slightly more than what we expected, so that affects margins, and we didn't put our prices up because we didn't know fuel was going to go up that much. But overall, like, you've got to kind of discount the fuel argument slightly because you can always get a way around that. The only problem you'll ever have is when fuel runs out, then you'll have your big problem. But yeah, it is a negative, which will affect the stock, but it is something that the Carnival can avoid if it carries on going forward. So Carnival Corporation, kind of my opinion on it now, and if I would buy the stock, if I'm going to actually buy shares in the company. And overall, you know, it's a space that I'm not in. It's a space that my portfolio's not in. I'm really attracted to the price of the stock. I like the PE, I like the dividend, I like the EPS and sales side of it. I feel like the stock is in a negative area for the last 12 months. So I feel like there's a potential for this stock to go down more than what it is right now. Like I said, I do like the stock. I do feel like there could be potentially more downside on it. But kind of outweighs going forward this side of it, the growth side of it. I believe the stock could go up to $60 per share, maybe $65 per share. It'll give you about a 20%, 30% upside to where it is right now in the next 12 months. That would be near towards its 52-week high. So I do believe there's a 20%, 30% upside in this company. But at the same time, I do feel like in the short term, you could be in for a bit of a rough ride holding this stock. So if I'm honest, I am considering opening a position into Carnival Corporation. If I was to open a position up into Carnival, probably next week, I would only buy a small position and then maybe average in. We'll see what happens in the stock in the short term, because like I say, this could fall down to 45 a share or maybe even 40 a share in the short term. So I could be 10-20% down on this position. So I don't want to open a big position up because of that. But when you look at the dividend and the P and the upside of it, it's quite a good upside overall. So yeah, I am considering opening up a small position into this stock and then seeing what happens. But like I say, it's something I'm going to consider over the weekend. And when I consider it over the weekend, I'll probably see what happens next week. And if I was to buy into this stock, it will be next week. If I don't buy in it next week, then I probably won't, unless it then shoots down even more. and then I might reconsider it again. But yeah, I am considering a position over the weekend, and if I do get into a position in Carnival Corporation, then I'll make a video about it like I normally do. I'll tell you the price I got into when I entered the stock, and it'll be in all my stock market portfolio reviews that I do. So yeah, I am considering it, and if I do get into it next week, then I will make a video about it and post it on this channel. But like I say, if I do, it's probably going to be a small position going forward. So that's the video today, guys. Talk about Carnival Corporation. Is it a buy right now at these prices? And like I say, I'll update you on this channel if anything changes about if I invested into it. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Give the video a like. Thanks for all the support recently. It's been amazing. Hopefully we'll hit that 200 subscriber mark next week. That'd be great if we can do that. So thank you for all that support, and I'll see you in the next video.